right, we will go right ahead into Mrs. Kette. You're going to show us a little bit about honey making today?
I am. Thanks for having me, Mrs. Hainline and Mr. Funk and children. Good morning.
Good
If
morning.
you can see me, I'm standing outside in my backyard. And one thing that's in my backyard that might not be in your backyard is a beehive. Now, this is a man-made beehive. Bees didn't make this on their own. They had a little help. So today I'm going to show you all about getting honey from a hive to a jar. So I'm going to flip my camera around and I'm going to show you. Here's our beehive. This is the backyard. Each of these boxes are called a super. They hold frames. And there's not a whole lot of action. I'm going to get a little closer to the beehive. You may see one or two, but it's kind of chilly this morning and bees don't like it super cold. So there's just one or two little guys hanging around. All right. This is a little jar or a little platter filled with rocks. Sometimes the bees will drink out of there. They like just a little drink of water. All right. I'm now going to go inside. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick question. How many bees do you think are sleeping in there this morning?
Well, Mr. Funk, that's a great question. And I'm going to show you a picture on the video. And I see a couple questions popping up. I'll answer those too. When we bought the bees, there was about 9,000 bees in the container. So I'm going to walk inside and head to my computer where I can show you a little bit more about taking the honey out of the hive and putting it into a jar like this.
I have to say, while you're commuting into your home, there are so many questions. We've never had so many questions in our morning meeting, and I don't think we've ever had this high of attendance. People are very excited to see this.
So just to lift up, we think you're brave, and we want to know if they sting you, and how much did this whole setup cost you?
Wow, those are some great questions. We might have some future beekeepers at our school.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of bravery, but normally, and you'll see in our pictures when I show some, you wear a suit so you don't get stung if we go into the hive, but you'll see that. And for the cost, bees are a little bit expensive. To buy the bees, it costs about $100. But if you consider all the honey that you get from it, and it's worth it in our opinion. We save a little bit so we can spend a little bit of money on bees because it's something we enjoy and we love the tasty honey. What was the other question? Oh, do they sting us? Yes, every once in a while they will sting us. They're trying to protect their honey, which is their source of food all summer and through the winter. So they don't always like it if we go into the hive. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I have Miss Francis or Mr. Funk, are you able to allow me to share my screen?
Yes, Miss Hainline, is that on your end to share it?
I just did it. Yep.
I think I see it. Yep, perfect. All right, get back to the top. Put it in play mode. All right, I wanted to start by showing you, I showed you a man-made beehive. That means we put it together ourselves. We bought this stuff at the store or on the internet and put it together. But in nature, you might see a beehive that looks like this. This was one that we pulled down from a tree, so that's why it's laying on the ground. It would normally be in the tree, but this would be a beehive in nature. This is a little closer of a picture, but what happens once we put them into the hive, or once the bees go into the hive, we kind of mimic or do the same thing that they do in nature. So this is what the bees did all on their own when they made their own hive up in a tree. But as you see in a couple more pictures, you'll see that the man-made beehives mimic or do the same thing like the beehives do in nature. This was a picture of Mr. Kette getting them, but we'll keep moving on. So I wanted to show you a picture of what it looks like when we buy the bees. Now the small picture is the queen bee. She's the most important one in the hive. She helps makes the eggs, which then help make the honey. And then on the other picture, you see a box of all the worker bees or the drone bees. So it doesn't look like it, but there's about 9,000 bees in there. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about how to extract honey from a beehive. What do you think extract means? I know you already had a word of the day, but does anybody know what extract means? If I want to extract the honey from the hive, what do I want to do? This is a picture clue.
Take it out.
Yeah, take it out. Nice job. To extract means to take something out. So I'm going to show you how my family and I extract honey from our beehives. This is another picture. You got to see one in our backyard, but this is another one of our beehives. We have a total of 5. This is one of them. The first thing that you need to do, and this goes back to the brave question, and do you get stung? There is a tool that Mr. Kette is holding, and that's called a smoker. We fill it with some smoker pellets, and that's kind of like starting a little fire in that container, and that smokes the bees. And that helps to calm them and confuse them so they don't sting when we go to do our work in the hive. Now, sometimes we will still get stung. The smoking won't work, but this definitely helps a lot. As you can see, he's wearing a bee suit and also special gloves. The next step, after we've smoked them, the bees start to come out of their hives or out of those boxes. So you use a special brush, kind of like a snow brush, just a little bit more soft, and you gently brush the bees off the box. That lets us hold the box and take the frames, which hold the honey, out of the box. And then once we finally get all those bees out, this is what one box, if we're looking inside, it looks like. And we call those frames. The box is called the super, the white box. And if you notice, and you'll see it even more in the next picture, when I showed you that original hive, what bees do in nature on their own, it mimics what we see here for the man-made product of the frames. Here we are carefully removing the frames from the box. As you can see, some of the bees piled out, even though we worked our heart best to smoke them and brush them in. They're all like, what's happening to our honey? And then we set them somewhere temporarily. There's my daughter right there. She helps too. She's away from the beehive, so she's not suited up. But if she were in the hive, she'd be suited up with the protective gear, the beehive suit. So those are the frames. That's where the honey is. And you see it's kind of white there. That's wax. The bees make a special wax to fill and protect the honey. So the honey is in each of those little tiny honeycomb squares. Here comes the fun part, extracting or cutting out the honey. This big silver thing is a tool called an extractor, and it's basically like a big spinning machine. You see the handle there, it's a crank, and that's how we get the honey. But first, before we can get the honey out, we have to gently remove the wax caps. The bees make that again to protect their honey. So we use a hot knife, a heated knife, to gently cut off the capped wax and get to the honey.
Is this what candles used to be made out of, Miss Kette?
Exactly, yes. You can save the wax. You'll see, I think you'll see it in a picture. If not, I can show you some here at the house. Then even a kid can do it. You see my daughter, this was a couple years ago, so she was younger. You just spin and spin and spin some more. And every time you spin, some of the honey flies out of the honeycomb in the frame. And all the honey and some wax too will drip to the bottom of the extractor. Uh-oh, my slides got out of order here. Sorry about that, kiddos. Let me back it up or forward it up. There we go. Once the honey has filled up the extractor, there's a little nozzle on it, kind of like how you would pour milk out of a container, but this time this is all filled with honey. And that honey then goes into, if you've ever drained water from spaghetti, like a sieve, that separates, you can see kind of the chunky wax in there and the honey, it's all mixed together. So that special sieve helps us to get the honey at the bottom of the bucket and keep the wax, like Mr. Funk suggested, for candle wax or other products on top. Next, you need some type of jars. This time we tried honey bears. We usually just use jars, but any type of jar. They have to be clean because you're putting the honey in there and you eat it. And get some type of funnel to help you pour your honey from the big container that was from the extractor into your jars. And this in 2017, so a couple years ago, was our very first bottle of honey. And the video that I accidentally put in the wrong spot, this was this summer. Mrs. Kette was sitting outside and I was feeling a little brave. Oh, one tip, if you ever see a man-made beehive or even a hive maybe up in a tree, the bees don't like it if you approach from the front. So you see how my camera, how I was kind of angled to the side? It's a little bit more safe if you kind of stand to the side. They don't feel as threatened. Also, I got a pretty good camera that zoomed in, so I wasn't as close as it appeared here. This is a longer video, but I'll show you just a couple minutes of it. Go ahead.
So
Yeah.
it is 8:30, and I know the kids have to get to class. Could we have a copy of this video that we show them tomorrow during morning meeting?
100%, Mr. Funk. Thanks so much for having me. It's just so exciting.
Or
Children,
if you're able to, I'm sure there's a lot more questions. If you're able to join us tomorrow for morning meeting, we'd appreciate it. If not, we'll do it. No problem. But if you can.
I will definitely be here. I'm excited about bees, and I'm glad you are too. So I'll see you tomorrow, children. Have a great day.
Jahari, I'll save your question for tomorrow. Okay, honey? I'm going to capture the chat. Okay.
Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
So this video was on a hotter summer day. Like you saw yesterday morning, the bees don't come out as much in the winter or in the cool weather. They came out yesterday during the day, but this was from a summer afternoon. And these bees are all called drone bees. So there's 3 main types of bees, and I'll show you when the video is over. But the drones are the ones that go to the flowers and get the pollen and the nectar, which then comes back and helps to make the honey. Just show you a couple more seconds. It's pretty much the same thing the rest of the video.
While we're waiting, we have 2 questions. Harper said, what do you do with the honey?
That's a great question, Harper. Well, Harper, I'd love to share some honey with you. So hopefully we'll figure out a way to send some to you or leave some for you at the school to pick up. So we do a lot of stuff with the honey. Mostly we eat it. It's really good on yogurt or in a cup of tea. Sometimes we put it in smoothies. If you're feeling a little itchy or like a sore throat, we'll pour it onto a spoon and just take a spoonful. Sometimes the honey will help your throat, like soothe it, kind of like a cough drop. Cool thing about honey is it's natural, meaning nothing is man-made. It's all from nature, from the bees. So anything natural, they say, can be good for your body. But great question. Oh, my daughter's also put it on ice cream before, except it gets all hard. Great question, Harper. All right, I think I may have stopped the video, but you kind of get the point. It's neat to see them entering and exiting the hive. Before the questions, I'll just share the 3 types of bees here. The worker are female bees, and they are in the hive. So they typically don't leave the hive. They might if we're smoking in it or working in it, but the workers are all females, and their job is to help raise the eggs. So the queen bee, the big one on the, well, I don't know if it's backwards on your screen, but the queen bee, the one that's a little bit more yellow in color, she's the female and she lays all the eggs. That's her main job. There's only one of her. And then the workers, like I said, the first picture are who stays in the hives, and the drones are the males, and they go out and they're the ones who get the pollen and the nectar from the flowers to bring it back to the hive. So what you probably saw were a bunch of drone bees in that video that I shared. Any other questions?
Yeah, Harper has a question. What type of bees sting? Do all those bees sting? Do you know?
Oh, that's a great question. I believe only the females or the males will sting. I'm not positive about that, but and again, they only sting if they're feeling threatened. So Harper, I'll double check on that and I'll get in touch with you and let you know that exact information. I'll write that question down. Because you know what, when we get stung, I'm not thinking, is it a boy or a girl? I'm thinking, ouch. But great question.
Miss Edie, how far away do the drones fly? Like on a day when they go out, how far do you think do they just stay in your garden, or do they go somewhere else?
Well, they definitely go other places. My neighbors have seen them. That's another great question, and I will get the answer to that as well. I'm not sure. They come home each evening or each dusk, you know, when the sun starts to go down. So I would assume they couldn't go too far, but I don't know the exact answer to that. But great question. And you may not be able to have a beehive at your house, but there are some ways you could help the bees. Our school has what we call a native garden, and there's a lot of good plants in it up front when we first enter the building. So you could help by possibly planting some flowers that bees like to help pollinate to get the honey. Another way you can help is you can leave a little dish. If you know, if your grown up say it's okay, you can leave a dish of water out. The bees need to drink some water, and they can't always have access to it. You could also be cautious when you use pesticides or anything to kill weeds or fertilize your lawn, just because then that can get into the bee system as well. But those are some ways that you could help support the bees even if you couldn't have a hive. Any other questions?
There are two questions. One is, what happens when the queen dies?
Oh, great question. So a couple of things can happen. There will be some what they call queen cells. So they may lay some eggs that can develop into a queen, but what would usually happen is the workers would recognize that, and they would make sure that they didn't survive. So if the queen leaves or dies for some reason, which can happen, sometimes it'll happen over winter, or if animals or insects attack the hive, you could lose the queen. Basically, your hive would what they call swarm, and that means they would leave the hive. They know something's wrong. You know, they don't have their queen that helps make the eggs to help then help the hive. So if you lose your queen, a lot of times you could lose your hive. Sometimes they make a special screen. If you remember from the slides, when I showed you the hive, I'll switch back to one. In between some of those boxes, the supers, you can put what they call a queen separator, and that'll make sure you keep your queen down at that first box down at the ground. You can use them or you don't have to use them. It's just kind of preference. But that's another way to protect your queen and make sure she stays in there so you can keep your hive going. Great question.
Have you ever lost a queen?
We've not lost a queen. We've lost a hive over the winter. Sometimes it's just too cold. We do kind of wrap them up. And these boxes here that you see in this picture are styrofoam. And styrofoam is like an insulator. It helps keep things warm. So it helps a little bit more so than the, I don't know if it showed here, but at home we have a wooden box. Oh, no, I don't think it shows here. But that's how we've lost a queen or a whole hive. You open up the hive and you see, you know, dead bees, or there's no bees, or fewer bees in there.
And then Harper asked, does the queen come out of the hive, and why isn't there a king?
Oh, great questions, Harper. I think I might see beekeeping or some type of zoology or insects in your future. I believe, and I'm not sure about this, Harper, these are some great questions. I believe the queen can do it all. So normally you need a king and a queen, or a man and a woman to reproduce, but I'm pretty sure that the queen has the power to do that all herself. I'll double check on that for you. And does the queen ever come out? Nope, she's like guarded in there, and it's not her job. She knows her role, so she typically stays in there. There might be some case, like I said, when we open up the hive to get the frames or extract the honey, that she could fly out, but we try and take special caution. And as you saw from that picture, the queen is larger than the other bees and slightly different color there. So she's a little bit easier to spot. Some beekeepers, we don't do this, but some beekeepers will put a little dot of color on their back to kind of mark the queen so she's easy to see. Like I said, we don't do that, but that is an option just to kind of keep a better eye on the queen.
And then Nico, Mr. Funk's son, wants to know, what do the baby bees look like?
Oh, cool.
I really want to know.
That's a great question, Nico. They kind of look like a little worm, like a little larva, almost like if you were going fishing and had a tiny little worm there. They look a little bit like that. We don't always see them because a lot of times they're in the honeycomb in the frame, but occasionally the bees will do stuff outside the frames and we will get a little picture of that. Nico, I can look for a picture of that. Like I said, it doesn't happen often, but I think we might have a picture. Or I can find one on the internet for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sweetheart. Well, yes, like I said, children, I will figure out a way with Mrs. Hayline and Mr. Funk to save some honey for you. We'll either mail it or leave it at school, but we'll be in touch, okay? And Harper, I will figure out those answers to those questions and make sure you get those as well.
And
Yeah.
Miss Katie, we are going to edit the two presentations together. So I'll send you the YouTube link so you can have it for future.
Wow, thanks, Mr. Funk. Great idea. Great idea. Well, thank you, boys and girls. Thank you for listening. I hope that you learned something and maybe someday you could have bees or at least support them in the other ways.
So I do have an answer for Harper. He said he's very curious. He always liked bees and that's why he has so many questions. And he asked, did the queen have a stinger? So real quick, while you were talking, I looked it up and it's funny, only the female bees have stings. So worker bees and queen bees are the only ones that can sting, and their stinger is, oh man, a modified ovipositor. That's got to be the word of the day. I don't even know.
Wow, thanks, Miss Mrs. Hayline.
You're welcome for whatever that's worth, Harper. All right, well, thank you, Miss Kette, for your 2-day engagement with the morning meeting. We've learned so much. I have to say it was very, very fun to watch and very interesting. I learned quite a bit.
Well, thanks for having me. Hope everybody has a great day and stay tuned. We'll get you some honey.
All righty. Thank you.
So Ms. Hainline, if it's all right, I have some jokes of the day to share.
Absolutely. Go for it.
All right. What do you call a sleeping Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Ooh.
A dinosaur. All right, and one more dinosaur joke in honor of Nico here. What do you call a dinosaur fart?
Oh, man.
A blast from the past.
Oh, look at that.
All right, we're here all week.
Dear God. All right. Jahari, I'm trying to look up the answer to how long is their stinger. I don't have it up here. Let me see let me try one more search.
I don't know if this is true of all bees, Bud, but when I've gotten stung, a lot of times the stinger is still in your skin and it's very small. It's like a pencil tip. It is in the shape kind of a shark's tooth, you know, with the point and like the little connection where it would be attached to its body. So that's not a scientific answer, but that's what I've observed or seen with my eyes.
I agree with you, Miss Kette. I've been stung a couple times and we have a natural hive, actually, not intentionally, in our driveway right now.
No way.
Yeah, on the side of it. So we're gonna have to figure that one out. I don't know. But anyhow, so very cool. Thanks again, Miss Kette. And we will end our meeting today 1 minute early so you can get to class. I just don't think it's enough time to do our mission, you know, with full force. So Jasmine asked, why do bees sting, honey? I'm gonna guess. Do you think, well, go ahead, Harper. What do you think?
Well, yeah, they sting because they're like when they feel like they're about to get attacked or something.
Yeah, they're protecting their hive and they're protecting their queen usually.